Hi everyone. Ooh, I'm falling off my chair. So there's been a little bit of interest in some of my hand carved stamps in past videos, and I thought I would take you on a quick little tutorial on my method of carving stamps, and there's probably many, but this is mine. So I made these stamps today on camera, which look like this. Look like a little starfish and, a little tulip and stuff like that. So if you're interested in seeing how I do this, then that's what we're going to do in this video. So let's come back over here and I'll come back over here. Bye. Okay, so I've had a few requests for some stamp carving tutorials, and that's what we're going to try to do today. So I've pulled out just a couple of trays of stamps just to have something to refer to that have, some very simple shapes that would be easy to do. I also pulled out an alphabet because the alphabet is the challenging thing when you are carving stamps, because everything that you do in an alphabet needs to be carved backwards. So I'm going to take you through what I have learned, and I'll tell you there's probably a whole bunch of different ways to do this. I'm going to just show you my way. So let me put those out of the way. I've got a few things on hand here that I recommend that you have. One is some sort of tracing paper. Another is a soft pencil, like an HB pencil. This is like a regular, Ticonderoga, the kind that you'd use in school, a soft pencil. Probably an eraser. Is this showing okay? A Sharpie, a narrow point Sharpie. I like to use this archival ink because it's permanent, and I actually like the way it looks on my stamps when I'm doing, it used to be for photography, but now it's for videos. I have some carving. Here, hold on. I've got my setting set up for a close-up. So I've got some carving tools. These are Speedball. They're available through all of the places. I probably bought mine on Amazon, the double Amazon. You're going to need some kind of carving rubber. Here, I'm so disorganized. I've got a few things going on here. Let me show you what I have. So this pink carving rubber is called Speedball Speedy Carve, and it is highly durable, very flexible. You really can't kill it. You could throw it in your bag and take it on a road trip and it would come out of your bag perfectly happy. This stuff, however, is called Speedy Cut. Speedy Cut, let me just show you an area, is extremely fragile. Speedy Cut can be picked right off. It does leave a little bit of debris behind. Almost all of the stamps that I used to make for Museware pottery were originally made out of Speedy Cut, because that's the first thing that I had ever purchased, and I just grew accustomed to it. Speedy Carve, on the other hand, once we started realizing that if we didn't care for these tenderly, they weren't going to last for us, and we became more of a production studio, we switched over to this. I don't really recommend one over the other. I find this easier, this Speedy Cut, the beige stuff, a little bit easier to carve. I think they're both about the same price, but to be honest with you, I don't really know. When I looked this up, Speedy Cut, a sheet of it was $16.99. I can promise you I did not pay that. So pink, off-white, and I just bought this because I have become interested in looking into lino cut, and this is a 11 by 12, 10, it's a sheet. I just cut this off because I've never carved with it before. It feels like it has a similar characteristic to this pink stuff, and this pink stuff is, just highly, highly durable. So I'm going to try carving into this and see what kind of results I get. So tracing paper, rubber, carving tools. When we get ready to transfer your images from your drawing to your paper, if you have a laser printer, I cannot address if it's inkjet. I know with a laser printer, the acetone in this will transfer an image onto the rubber, but I don't know about inkjet. I also have here is it's a contact sheet. I have Photoshop, and so when you've got a whole bunch of files, you can create a contact sheet and it loads them all into one thing. So Someone asked me recently if I'd thought about a nautically themed paper cut collage, which I had not, but I am now. So I printed all of these, so I had access to a bunch of images that are approximately the size of my cut rubber. I usually, just as an aside, I usually cut my sheets because I worked in Photoshop and could resize them. All of my stamps are approximately this size. This is the size block that I use, which is wood, which is 3 by 3 square. If you're looking to make something larger, you'll, obviously want to make your stamp larger. And if you don't have Photoshop, you'll want your stamp to be the size you want it to be. But I think these are highly versatile. You've seen me work with them on camera. So this is just a big pile of nautically themed stamps, one of which, or a couple of which, I'm going to trace and transfer onto this piece of rubber. And I'm going to show you how I carve it. Now, I've never taught stamp carving before, so I don't really know how to teach it, but I didn't know how to teach collage either. When you guys have been watching me do that for a while. Gel printing, same difference. So I'm just going to find something that's really simple, that doesn't have a lot of detail in it. And I think it's going to be this. I think it's going to be this seashell right here. So I'm going to grab a piece of tracing paper. And you don't want to necessarily trace every single last detail, but you do want to get as much detail as possible because you can always change it while you're working. I'm going to try to get this up just a little bit closer to the camera. So you can see more detail. So I make this disclaimer every time I make a video, is that my videos are typically real time until things become very repetitious, and then I either cut parts out and fade in, or I speed stuff up. Depends on how much information I'm going to lose. And so it's possible that that may happen with some of what we're going to do today. So I'm using a soft pencil, and I'm pressing down fairly hard. I don't want my pencil to be too sharp, because what I want is this soft lead to, I want to cover up all these lines with this soft lead, because once we're done doing this, I'm going to flip this over and rub that soft lead into the rubber, which should, always has, transfer the design. So this is an example where I'm probably going to just fade out with this already carved. This might be a little bit complex for our first design, and if it is, we'll find out pretty quickly. Okay, so I've got a basic design. I did not take all of those little tiny details because I don't think they're necessary at this point. So I'm going to flip this upside down on here. You can use any number of, one of the things that you can do if it's your style, is you can just trace it. Trace what you've already traced, and you can see it transfers to the rubber. But what I'm going to use is just a bone folder. You can use the side of the side of a spoon. I'm just going to rub this soft lead onto this block, and I have gotten a really nice, clean transfer. So obviously the reason for tracing paper is that you want to be able to trace a design, because not all of us can draw, including me. But it also releases the lead pretty nicely. So I've got this design on here, and I'm going to just get started. So let me tell you about this carving tool. This is a speedball carving tool. So speedball, let me just show you. This is a real speedball carving tool. You can see the cursive logo. You can see that it unscrews and extra pieces get stored on the inside, which is not the same as this fake speedball carving tool that you have to use teeth or a knife to open. And this does not hold the blade inside, so pay attention to where you're buying your stuff, because this came in the mail and it's garbage. It's a total knockoff. So the tools that come with these, the cutting tools that come with these speedball carving tools, and these might be $12, I'm not even really sure. You get a bunch of different blades that come with it. Get this little narrow carving blade, which I like to use for my outlines. You get a deeper, you get what they call a, I'd have to stand on my chair to see what you can see. Let me see if I can show this to you. Yeah, you can see it's got a V and it's kind of on the deepish side. This carving tool has this rounded edge, just so you know, goes inside the holder. This is a U-shaped carving tool for clearing out big pieces of things. There's probably a couple more in here that I just haven't taken out yet. Let's see. That's pretty much it. They come in, it depends on which kit you buy and stuff like that. Oh, I do want to show you something while I'm thinking of it. Hold on. I want to show you guys this. I bought this at Hobby Lobby the other day, and this is by far the best price I've ever seen on this. So what you get with this is you get an actual brayer. The brayers are $14, $15 themselves. You get a piece of Speedy Carve rubber. You get a carving tool with, I think, maybe 3 blades inside of it. And you get a little tiny container of black ink. Now, I have never used ink in my stamp carving, but I'm going to give it a try just to see what it does. But this whole entire package was $20, and I don't think it's on sale. I think it's their price. So if you have one near you, or if you have, I don't know if you can buy it online. I don't know what they're, how they shop. I highly recommend. This is a starting kit because it is a very, very good value. Very good value. Okay, Okay, I'm going to take out for this, I'm going to take out this sharp blade and this V blade. Actually, look what I've already done. I like having more than one, so I've already got that. So I'll put the sharp blade there. I like having more than one handle because I used to do a great deal of carving, and it was really nice to not have to switch out my blades. So let me just show you this to troubleshoot, because you're going to do this for sure. If you unscrew this all the way, it's going to fall apart, okay? And it's going to go right back together only one way. So you end up with 2 small pieces that I can't pick up. 2 small pieces that hook together. That little round ball goes up. This fits around it only one way. And it goes in here and then screws back on here. So before you tighten it down all the way, you want to slip your blade into that little opening and tighten it down. So you should be warned, these are sharp. They will puncture your skin, and you just need to be aware of that while you're doing your work. Okay, so one of the things that you need to decide about a stamp, how can I show this to you? You need to decide what you're going to keep and what you're going to give away, what you're going to carve away. I hope this is big enough. I feel like I need to make it even closer. I'm stacking books here. Let me show you 2 stamps that I created. This stamp I have kept the black line and I have kept the inner details of the butterfly. So I've removed more rubber on this stamp than I have kept. This stamp, I have removed the design, this raised black part, carved that out, and then carved around the outside. So I have a, let me just try to show this to you. Hold on, let me show you what happens. I got my stamp pad. I'm going to ink up my stamp. And I usually use the palm of my hand because you want a good amount of, you want your stamp to be covered with ink. Okay. And I'm going to hold that in place with one hand and use the palm of my hand to press it down. Okay, so you can see some of this ink has been picked up by these little lines, which I personally like. But you can see that this part that is black. Okay, this one we're going to get a different result from. Put that down. Okay. Again, get your palm involved because if you don't, you get a weak impression and you cannot stamp it again. Okay, very different result here. Carved away, see that little area there? I did not get my whole hand involved and that left that little opening there. So that's to give you an idea of how this can work. Let's just take a look at this image. I should have just cut it out, but I don't want to cut up my book right now. So you can see I've left all of these little lines off and such like that. So if I wanted to carve a stamp that looks mostly like this, what I'm going to end up doing is carving away everything that you see that's black stays and everything that you see that's white disappears. I think that this is too ambitious for a first stamp. So I'm going to abandon this maybe until later in the video or maybe until another video. Let's see what I can do that's simpler. Let's do this. Let's carve that and that. Okay. I'm going to transfer these onto this piece of rubber. And I'm going to cut the rubber in half, and then we're going to carve this. So the way I'm going to do this is the lazy way, because I have it. I'm going to stamp these designs right on this rubber, which is going to mean that it's going to take a minute to dry, but I don't care. All right. Okay, that's going to actually be really easy to see what you're working on because it's so clean. We're going to make these because they're much simpler than what I don't know what I was thinking. But the first thing I'm going to do is cut this thing in half. I'm going to get rid of. I'm also I have a little X-Acto knife. You can use a box cutter. See how easy this is almost like one pass. So what I would like to do, let's do a couple of different things on this. Let's take this stamp, since I've already picked the corner off of it, and let's remove everything. We want the stamp that you end up with to look like this. It's going to end up with everything being carved away so that we have a black flower. This one, however, I'm going to try something different. I'm going to carve away everything that's black and leave the white. So we'll end up with the black background. So let's just start. Okay, I'm going to start with my smallest little knife, which is this one, this tiny little V groove. And honestly, I don't know if this is sharp or not, so we're going to find out. So let me tell you about starting things. It is much easier to put your blade in this sharp corner right here and carve away than it will be to carve into it and try to make that turn. I do not know. I need to test this blade. Hold on. I just want to see if this is a sharp blade or am I going to stab myself with it. It's pretty sharp. It cuts out a very, very thin little piece. So I'm going to start here in this corner and I'm going to remove everything that is not black. I'm just going to, and these, you're not going to really be able to see my cuts very much because it is very, you can see it makes just the tiniest little line, and I actually have to stand on a chair to see if you can see it. It makes the tiniest little line. Okay, this is interesting. I was in the middle of recording this video, editing this video, and I realized that when I brought this up close, you could see the cut. It never focused again. So there's probably 7 minutes of me carving with absolutely no video. So we're going to do it again. And let's see if I can do it right this time. So if you remember on this piece, we're carving away the white. I'm just going to flick up at the end there. Go around. This is probably still a little bit wet. So I recommend turning the rubber versus trying to steer your knife. It's a lot easier, even with your non-dominant hand, to steer the rubber. So I'm going to, instead of carving out like this, I'm going to do something different because this edge compresses a little bit, not so much on this rubber, definitely on the pink rubber. So I'm just going to bring that around, get into this corner. Okay. This is the cut that got me in trouble when I tried to show it to you. Okay. I'm going to get in here and just carve out this little detail. Yeah, the autofocus being off looks like what my vision looks like when I don't have glasses on. It was actually a pretty good representation. So I wear my glasses for far away, but cannot wear them for close. So I've switched to a slightly, I don't know how to show this to you, slightly more V-shaped, I can't see it. Anyway, slightly more, a larger V-shaped tool, the second tool that I pulled out. And I'm just going to carve away some more of the outside. I'm trying to avoid putting my hands in the path of my knife to not teach you bad technique. I've actually been fortunate. I've only poked myself one time, and it was fairly minor. Probably because this particular rubber carves so easy, you really don't have to put any force into it. And actually, you'll end up with not great results if you put much force into it because it digs down. It really is like butter to cut. It digs down deep. Okay, I'm just going to remove just a couple more little paths on this. And then I'll try to remove more with a bigger tool. So here I'm just going to just use my little tool for this. I want to do a better job of cutting these than I did on the original piece of rubber. When I created this entire body of stamps that you guys have seen, I was creating it for licensing. So I was designing products with these stamps, and most of that work took place in Photoshop. So it didn't matter if my stamps weren't well carved. I'm going to switch this out for the scoop. Okay, why you not give me back my blade? Thank you. I'll take this one. Okay. Yeah, so I didn't care if they were perfect because I could bring them into Photoshop and make them bigger and smaller, and any of the little nicks where I didn't stop my blade in time. I could get rid of all of those. They didn't matter either. So a lot of these stamps, if I were using them exactly the way they are, they would be, anybody that has any experience carving. Oh, look what I just did. Just cut a big gouge in the side of that. Not to wah-wah, but this type of work I need to get closer to in order to see the detail. But that means you get to look at the top of my head. All right, I'm going to take this and I'm going to stamp it. Let's see what this looks like. And I don't know if I showed you this in the earlier part, but these stamps are, what's the word I'm looking for? They have debris coming off of them. Okay, that's a weird little line there where I cut that, but that's what we've got. We've got a little stamp, and I can see I double impressed there. So let me try that again just to show you a clean impression. There you go. Okay, you can see how dark this is? This is not dark because I did not get my whole palm involved. But that's our stamp. So let's take a look at this next little stamp that we've got. And put that off to the side. Let's try something different with this one. Let's carve away what is black and leave what is white. So we will end up with a stamp with a colored background and a white flower. So I'm going to try essentially the same thing, but I'm going to see if I can't get a little bit closer. I'm going to put back in this small blade. I'm going to see if I can get a little bit closer. I'm going to try sitting down to do this and keep my head out of view. So I'm going to start with this small, even though this has got black on it, I'm not going to carve that. I'm going to carve right up the center of this. I'm going to go straight because it's easier for me to go straight. I'm going to carve away just a little strip of black. Pop that off. And do the same thing down here. Yeah, this is definitely close-up work, guys. Definitely close-up work. And it's been, I did not have my, not one, two eye diseases when I first started carving stamps. So this is a very different experience for me. As you can see, I'm going to go right into the trough that I just dug, which I'm sure you can't see. For now, I'm just going to do my outlines. I'll go in and clear away the interior in a minute. And we're going to stay to real time for a little while. So I've seen, just as an aside, because I haven't ever taught anybody how to do this, I've seen other artists' videos And it is definitely hard for you guys to see what is being removed. So some artists use a Sharpie magic marker to color areas that they've carved. Some people stain their rubber a certain color so that when they go to carve it, they've got, you know, they've got some lines. I'm going to cut straight across this. Now, if I were cutting around this, if I wanted, since I'm going to remove all of this, I can make a straight across line. But you wouldn't want to do that if you wanted to keep the black untouched like we did on our last one. So I'm going to go up here, spin my rubber to make that little circle, and go back down. You can see I'm starting to remove some black. I don't know if you can hear outside my window. There have to be baby birds in the tree. They're making a little bit of a racket. Maybe mom has just come back. I put my Ficus benjamina outside to repot it at the beginning of the season. And when I brought it back in, it had a cardinal nest in it. So, all right. And I ended up dropping the egg that was in it on the floor because I didn't know it was there. Anyway, so I'm just going to run a stamp on this. I just want to see what this is going to print like. Okay, so you can see what I've carved away. I'll just clean it off on here. So what you're going to have is a background. This is a black flower with a white background. We're going to have a white flower with a black background. So let's keep going. I'm going to, I got to get lower. How low can you go? So if you can just pick that straight up, you can break that off. This is very slow work. But I can tell you, even though it's slow work, and even though there's ample opportunities to make mistakes, it hardly matters at all, because even my worst stamps have character, and I use them. Guys, I may give you this tutorial, but I don't know that I'm going to be doing this on camera very much. Because when you, even if you trace a design that you saw, you know, trace a seashell, like all of those images that I showed you a couple of minutes ago. I used to have a subscription to clipart.com, which is all, what do you call it? Own public domain images. I have thousands of clip art images. They were all carved very similar to this back in the days when everybody was doing wood carvings. So some of them are very, very detailed. And some of them are, I just need to turn this so I can see that's where to put my blade. Some are very detailed. But some of them have lines if you make a nice transfer. Some of them have lines that are going to be really easy to reproduce. No, I screwed it up. I was supposed to carve away the black. And I left the black and I removed the white. So this is going to be a fail, but it's a lesson. Stamp carving is deliberately slow work. And basically what I wanted to show you today is some of the materials that you'll use, different ways to get your images out of your head and onto a piece of rubber. So if you have I think I started to tell you, but I haven't shown it to you yet. If you have a laser jet printer, and I don't know, the only way you're going to find out is if your inkjet will do this, is to use fingernail polish that contains acetone to transfer your image. I'm going to try sitting down to do this. and keep my head out of view. So I'm going to start with this small, even though this has got black on it, I'm not going to carve that. I'm going to carve right up the center of this. I'm going to go straight because it's easier. Okay, you're going to get the basic idea. This is extremely rough, and I can tell you that I'm really out of practice. Okay, so if you carve away the black, you end up with a white image and a black background. If you carve away the white, you end up with a black image and a white background. So that's the basic carving technique, and there's literally nothing more that I can show you other, in terms of carving technique. There's nothing more that I can show you that I can teach you. The only way that you're going to be able to do any of this is if you just keep carving. So what I want to show you is a way to transfer an image. Let's try it here. Let's take this rubber and this fingernail polish remover and these cotton things. Yeah, okay. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I make my life easy. I'm going to cut it out, even though I don't want to cut up my book. I can tape it back in when I'm done. I'm going to take this image. You want to make sure that this stays still, because the more you move it, the squishier your lines are going to be. I'm getting some fingernail polish on here, which is mine is the first ingredient is acetone. And you can see, you immediately can see through here. And I don't want to belabor the point, but I am using a laser printer. I'm going to try using the tip of this to transfer more detail. Now, I didn't choose this for the detail because I don't have the skills to carve that much detail. I chose it for the shape because it is a seashell. It's a starfish. Look at how nice that detail transfers. Missed a little bit of area right there. So I like to keep Sharpie around when I'm doing stuff like this, just to fill things in if I don't do a great job transferring the image. So I just rub that off. Now this is teeny tiny detail that maybe a professional stamp carver could take care of. I could not. But I tell you what I'm going to do with this. I'm going to remove all of this white rubber so that I can have this starfish design. The detail of this little fleck on the edge, yeah, no, that's not for me. That's got to go. I don't have nearly the skills to do that kind of work. So I'm just going to push this very slowly. Kind of lift the knife up. Oops, it's flying everywhere. And watch what I do when I get toward the end. Just kind of flick it up and it breaks it off. They do that with lino cut as well, and they get this really nice looking sharp edge, which Mark Hurld uses to make feathers on his birds. Okay, that's a cute little starfish. Okay, can you see it? It's cute. Okay, I'm going to carve all that rubber away. Oh, before I dig into this, let me make a point. Stamps require the thickness of the stamp underneath the entire design to support the design so that you get a clean impression. How do I show you? So when I cut these stamps out, a lot of artists will cut diagonally out, and I'm going to give that a try today. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to do this. You don't want to undercut, because you're not going to get a clean impression on this. Possibly not as big a deal on some of these little stamps, but on the big ones, definitely. So let's give this a try. Let's cut this out, and I'm angling my knife out so that I'm getting some thickness underneath. And you want to do, this needs to be done pretty slowly. So oftentimes, if I've got a top and a bottom to the stamp that I've created, I'll mark it on the back side, because I feel like this stamp does not want to be that way, but it might want to be that way, but it probably wants to be this way. Oh, so much for that stamp ever getting carved. I cut the whole back of it off. Sometimes these stamps are so thick that you can literally carve both sides of them, and I've seen artists do that quite a bit. Nice. Nice and clean. But look at, let me show you. You know, if you want to become a professional, you'll care about this stuff. There's a clip right there. There's another clip right here. And when I was back in the day as a Photoshop person, I would just fix it. Where's the other one? Here's debris right there. That's debris on my stamp because I didn't clean it. This, like I said, is very, very rubbery. It's very, very durable. So I'm going to get right in the corner and push off. Now watch what happens when I get to the end. I can't break that off. It won't break off. So you just have to pick it off. And you might have to repair that edge after. So I'm going to carve away my pink. My pink is actually my paper. So, one more thing I want to try. Let's try, I cut off a piece of this. This is, I told you, 9 by 12, I think, whatever it is. It's just, it's what they sell as a lino alternative. I don't want to turn this into a project because I don't know how it's going to work. I'm going to make a small stamp just like the one we just made. So what I see myself, oh, that cuts nice. You know, I hear some of you guys out there say, I can't even draw a stick person. Yeah, you can. You draw enough stick people, your stick person starts looking like, I don't know, like a stick person. So I don't know how this is going to respond to being carved, but I'm going to find out right now. Okay. That feels... It's harder than the pink. The end is not rubbery, so I can carve off the end. I'll tell you what I won't like about it for stamping, But I will like about it for printing, this is probably, maybe it's an, oh, actually, now I'm kind of excited. I feel like I have more control with this because this is more rigid and less bouncy. Oh, but you can skid right across the top of it and wreck your work, so you got to go slow. And I don't know, my blades might be, I don't know how to tell which blades I've had for since 2014 and which blades I just came with the new block printing thing. I have to tell you, I like this. I like this already. I'm not sure if it's entry level, but you know what? It doesn't matter. When you've never done something, it is what it is while you're learning it. So if it's maybe slightly harder than another rubber, you don't know any rubber. Yep, this is definitely denser, so it's harder to, let's see how it's, I think I have a dull blade. It's sliding across the top. Yeah, this requires, well, they all require sharp tools. But I bought this, so what I'll do, before I publish this video, I'll go into my Amazon artist store. Yeah, these are definitely not sharp tools. I'll go into my Amazon artist store and I will, that's a little bit of a challenge. Is it because I have a crappy blade? Yes. Sorry, I keep interrupting myself. I'll go into my Amazon artist store and list the supplies that they have. I'm going to stab myself in the finger with my dull tool. Don't use dull tools, guy. But I do like the way, I even like the way this looks on camera. And when you carve away the dark gray at the top, you get a pretty decent white line so that you can see what you're carving away. I do like that. Little nick right there. That's what happens when you get this sharp edge too close to it. I think when I get to the point, if I get to the point, I don't even know, if I get to the point with lino cutting where I want to try to create an entire single print that you make. The thing about lino, you know how gel printing you get what you get one time, can't get it twice. With lino cut, you create a carving and you can lay the paper over the top of it and print it over and over again. It's called an addition. And since I've been doing this for such a long time, stamp carving for such a long time, I believe, and I don't know if I recommend it for everybody, but I believe I have earned the right to have new tools. They're in my cart. Okay, let's look at this close up. Not a big difference. I mean, the impression's the same and stuff. You can see my nicks. You can see my nick right there. Another one right there. But you can tell I'm working in a tiny little scale here, which is not the best idea for trying to record it, but it is the best idea for learning how to do something. Okay. We made a starfish, a couple of little raggedy things, a black flower, a white flower, and a wrecked flower. Let me just make one more point before I go. And that is, if you decide that you want to add text to your work, you need to remember that it has to be backwards, because everything that stamps, let me make a point, everything is mirror image. So you see one leaf is short and one is tall. It's the mirror image. One leaf is tall, one is short. Everything you do is mirror image. So if I take this letter K, it looks backwards. You stamp it. It's forward. You put its friend next to it, it's backward. So that's part of what makes tracing paper a really interesting way to transfer images onto your stamp. So you can draw something and you can say, I love you. And when you flip it upside down and rub it down, it's going to come out backwards, so that when it's stamped backwards, it's going to be frontwards. So I think that's all I have for you today. I hope I was able to teach something, because I've never done that before, and it's interesting to see how I might cobble this together and make it an organized video. My name is Cherie Burlington. I'm an artist, an errant, an angel mom, a stamp carver, a collage artist. I'm all kinds of stuff. I'm all kinds of stuff, so aren't we all? So anyways, thanks for joining me, and I hope I see you in my feed again soon. Thanks, bye.